Hi, good evening. I am Dr. Felice Gersh, and I'm your host tonight for the Women, Hearts, and Hormones show. So, first, I want to introduce myself to any of you who have not yet met me. I am one of the few OBGYN doctors who is integrative and functional. I have done the 2-year fellowship in integrative medicine at the University of Arizona School of Medicine and taken many, many courses in functional and naturopathic medicine. I am the medical director of the integrative group here in Irvine, the Integrative Medical Group of Irvine. We are a medical group consisting of myself, I'm the medical director, and my little team of 2 naturopathic doctors and a fitness specialist who also does nutrition and detoxification. And I also have a massage therapist and as well an esthetician who does an integrative approach to skincare. As well, we also provide through one of my naturopathic doctors, we have acupuncture and homeopathy and essential oil treatment. So we have many, many tools in our toolbox to help our patients to achieve and maintain optimal health that are not readily available in most medical practices. And I am here because I want to help you to also attain and maintain optimal health. So our talk tonight is about something that is absolutely not optional. It is essential to have health, and that is sleep. Now, sleep is often thought of as the opposite of being awake, but it is not. Sleep is actually a very active phase of life. Many, many things are happening during sleep. So it's not just being unconscious, which is one of the reasons why drug sleep, whether it's with some form of antihistamine or a sleeping pill, is not the road to true health, not at all. It has to be natural, induced sleep. Sometimes a little bit of assistance with such things as a calming herb can be good, which does not alter the normal sleep phases, which are very, very important in order for the healthy, rejuvenative processes that must occur during sleep to actually occur. And what does this have to do with heart disease, you may ask? What does sleep have to do with cardiovascular health or metabolic health? Well, it turns out it has a great deal to do with, of course, everything, because what happens during sleep is all about rejuvenation and healing. And it's a time when the immune system, that's sort of, you might think of it as like our secret force that comes out and starts clearing away the gunk in our brain. It starts killing crappy cells that may turn into cancer cells. It's a real amazing thing that happens during sleep. And if you do not sleep or get the proper phases of sleep, then these processes will not happen. Another amazing thing that happens during sleep is the production of melatonin. I'm sure you've all heard of melatonin because although it is a critical hormone involved in a variety of things in the body, and in fact, the majority of melatonin is actually produced in the gut more than in the brain, but there's plenty produced in the brain as well. But melatonin is about rejuvenation as well. It's actually a major but non-recyclable. It has to be renewed on a daily basis. It's a super potent antioxidant. And one of the things that happens during sleep is the antioxidant potential and functions of melatonin help to quell the oxidative stress that occurs during the day. Think of all the things that happen during the day that create free radicals and stress in your body. At night, the melatonin comes out, and the melatonin then helps to quell this oxidative stress. And there's so much more that happens with melatonin during the night while you're asleep. Melatonin, as I mentioned, is largely produced in the gut. And in the GI tract, there are bacteria that we call our microbiome, the bacteria of the gut. There are trillions of them in the gut. And some of those particular bacteria are actually stimulated by melatonin, and they swarm, just like you would see bee swarm. They swarm and they create signaling to the cells in our gut and also to other bacterial species in our gut. So that what happens is that the time is actually set. So we've talked about circadian rhythm, and I'm going to talk about it more. We can never get away from circadian rhythm because these rhythms set the beat of all our organs and all our functions in our body. So what happens is when you have the melatonin coming out at night, it alerts the particular bacteria that are sensitive to melatonin to know it's night. And that helps to set our clock because everything in our body is on a time clock. We have time genes, we have clock genes. So every organ in the body has to be in synchrony with every other organ in the body. And the melatonin at night helps to set that time clock. So what else is going on? Well, let's talk about, well, what is going on in women in particular when they hit menopause. Okay, we've talked about menopause before, and that'll keep coming up again as well, because it is a universal and monumental event that occurs in the life of every single woman. No matter how hard she tries to avoid it, it is not avoidable. It is programmed into every woman that her ovaries will become senescent. They will no longer produce the hormones of the ovary that are so essential for so many functions of the body, estrogen and its sidekick, progesterone. Well, it turns out that estrogen is very much about sleep. Of course, it's about everything. We already know that. So estrogen actually is involved in the neurons, in the function of the neurons in the brain that are called serotonin neurons. These are the neurons that produce serotonin in the brain, and serotonin is critical for many functions in the brain, including mood, but also for sleep. So when you lose your estrogen, and many of you out there probably already have lost your estrogen, if you have come to the age of around 50 or so, you've probably either lost your estrogen production or it's way down in production amounts, and you'll find that your sleep has been impacted. And this is pretty universal in women, and it's irrespective of the hot flashes, which is another issue that can actually cause a great deal of detriment to the process of sleep in menopausal women. So you have what you might say a double whammy. You have a problem with lower production of serotonin, which is essential for sleep. And as well, you have a serious problem where you are not making enough serotonin in the gut as well. And the gut serotonin is very important for producing melatonin as well. So serotonin is a precursor to melatonin. So it's a big process that occurs in the female that causes a detriment in her sleep quality and sleep quantity. So what else goes wrong in women in menopause with sleep? It turns out that in a woman with menopause, that she can't get her breathing quite right in many cases. Sleep apnea. You've probably heard of sleep apnea. It seems to be an epidemic right now. So sleep apnea in a woman does not manifest the same as it does in a male, not typically. So in a male, very often they'll have very heavy snoring, and you can actually even see them stop breathing. In a woman, the subtleties can be great. In fact, you can watch a woman sleeping and not even perceive that she is pausing for a millisecond, that she is not breathing. But that little tiny pause in breathing that you can't even see without doing a sleep study, there's these special studies, you can't see it. And she doesn't feel it because she's not actually awakening, although some women do awaken, but many don't, and they don't realize that this is happening to them. But their sleep phases, the progression of deep wave sleep and REM sleep, it doesn't occur in the proper sequence and in the proper amounts. And so the restorative functions of sleep are simply not occurring for her. Many women will wake up feeling tired. So if you are one of them, if you wake up and you still feel tired, like you've been in bed for a few hours, for many hours, and you still wake up and feel tired, or you wake up and you have a headache, that is a sign that you may have sleep apnea. Another thing that we talked about, okay, we talked about the heart and sleep and the cardiovascular system. We now know that if you get inadequate sleep, and what is that defined by? Well, you want to get somewhere around 7 up to 8 hours of sleep. That is like the sweet spot, between 7 and 8 hours of sleep a night. If you don't get that, then you are increasing your risk of actual death. I know that sounds very scary, but they've had studies that show, for example, in men, in a man who gets less than 6 hours of sleep or more than 10 hours. In fact, more sleep is not necessarily good. In fact, it's bad. So you don't want to have too much sleep. Too little or too much sleep actually increases all-cause mortality. So this is a very, very serious thing. In fact, even if you get less than 7 hours of sleep, you actually increase your risk of having cardiovascular events. Things like heart attacks and strokes, and all-cause mortality goes up in a situation where you get inadequate amounts of sleep. So it's not just inadequate amounts, it's also sleep quality. So that's why you don't want to take sleeping pills. If you take a drug to try to help you sleep, you're not going to have all the restorative benefits of sleep. So we have to work very hard to get quality natural sleep. So what can we do to get quality natural sleep? Well, there's a lot you can do. Number one, reduce exposure to the blue light. So looking at your computer screen is not a good thing within 2 hours of going to bed. Same thing with the television. But what if you say, but I have to work on my computer, or there's just a show I really want to watch with my spouse or my friend, and I really want to watch television. Then you need to go and get amber glasses. You can buy them, they sell them, there's different qualities, but you need to go and get amber colored glasses so that it helps to filter out the blue light. You can also get different apps for your cell phone or also for your computer screen to actually help to filter out the blue light. Additionally, you want to have no electronics in your bedroom. It turns out, as you probably know, our brains are filled with electrical signals, right? Our brains are electrical, and we want to quiet your brain down so you can fall asleep and stay asleep. So you want to get the electrical stuff out of your bedroom. And in fact, if you find that you just can't sleep, you're waking up all night, your mind is just buzzing, then you may want to actually have an electrician come into your bedroom and put in a circuit breaker switch and actually turn off all electrical current to your bedroom. So while you're sleeping, there's no current, because a lot of homes are actually constructed with poor electrical wiring, and there's a lot of electrical current that is flowing through the walls, even when the appliances, like, if you have a radio or if you have a television in the bedroom or a lamp, and they're all turned off, there's still a lot of electrical current flowing through the wall, which could be right next to the head of your bed, right? So your head may be right next to a wall where there's a ton of electrical current right flowing through, and it creates an electrical field, electromagnetic field, which is actually affecting your brain. So you can get a circuit breaker for probably about $300 put in. If, obviously, if it's an apartment, you better check with the people who are renting it to you. But if it's your own home, you can go and get an electrician to put in a circuit breaker. Also, they've now done studies on light. So it turns out that light is very detrimental to your sleep. Even though you're sound asleep, if there's some small amount of light in the room, it gets through your eyelids, okay? And they've now shown that it alters the quality of your sleep. So you absolutely want to get blackout shades on your windows, or you can get a sleep mask, a very comfortable, lightweight sleep mask, which you can sleep with, and it will make the room, obviously, your eyes will be blacked out, even if your room isn't, and that will be very, very helpful. You want a cool room. What happens to your temperature during the night? It should go down. Okay, we talked about circadian rhythm. You are two different creatures, a day creature and a night creature. At night, your heart rate should slow, your blood pressure should go down, your temperature should go down. You need a room that's comfortable and cool that will help facilitate that. So try to keep your room as cool as possible. What happens in women in menopause is that many of the women have dysregulation of their hypothalamus, that's part of the brain that regulates their pulse, their temperature, and their blood pressure. So of course, that's one of the reasons why a lot of women in menopause get hot flashes, because that part of the brain is now dysregulated. It's not putting out the right signals. Also, their blood pressure may not go down. It's very important for blood pressure to go down at night while you're sleeping. Your pulse should go down. In people who do not do that, we call them non-dippers. Non-dippers have a higher rate of having a stroke or a heart attack. And the most common time for strokes and heart attacks are in the early morning hours, when you get a surge of cortisol to help awaken you. So you definitely want to have a lower temperature, a lower blood pressure. And that is helped by doing a variety of things. One is meditation, doing things that will help calm you. We know now that the autonomic nervous system becomes dysregulated very often in people who have a lot of anxiety, who have sleep disorders, whether it's due to jet lag. Now, jet lag is where you're jumping across different time zones. Of course, that is very detrimental to your sleep and to your health and to your cardiovascular system. As well, many people have what we call social jet lag. That's where you have a totally different schedule on the weekend. You go to bed at a totally different time, like 2 o'clock in the morning, you sleep until 11. So you might as well be in a different time zone. That is really, really bad for your body. Okay, so we don't want that. That increases cardiovascular risk. So you want to have a set time to go to sleep every night. I know it's hard and there are always exceptions, but try as hard as you can to go to bed. And what time is that you should go to bed? Turns out the sweet spot is between 10 and 11 at night. And then you want to try to sleep for around 7 hours, 7.5 hours. That is just perfect. The average American today gets 6.8 hours of sleep a night. That's too little. Just, maybe a few dozen years ago, or, not just in the last century, the average person slept an hour and a half longer than they do today. Our electronic age, our fast lives, and our social connections through the internet and so on are really disturbing our sleep. So we're getting an hour and a half less sleep now than a previous generation ago got. And that's a big deal, because we are not at the sweet spot. We're not getting enough sleep. Under 7 hours is not enough. And in fact, a whole third of people are getting far below that. And only about a third of people actually get adequate amounts of sleep in our country now. Of course, this affects things like driving, right? Because a lot of accidents occur when people are sleepy. It's as bad, if not worse, than alcohol. So we really have tremendous problems with lack of sleep. And most of us, 2/3 of us, are getting inadequate amounts of sleep, and a third are getting seriously too little sleep. Lack of sleep elevates blood pressure, elevates cardiovascular disease, and increases, I had mentioned this, increases the risk of diabetes as well. We are programmed in our genes to sleep and to have restorative sleep and to do all the things that we need to do during our sleeping time to help restore our bodies and maintain our cardiovascular system, our metabolic systems. And that is not happening. And with women, it's especially problematic when they hit menopause, because estrogen, as we've now talked about, is very important for sleep, both in producing melatonin, serotonin, and in regulating the brain functions that are involved with sleep. And then, of course, the hot flashes, which are related, once again, to the hypothalamic functions, that becomes also dysregulated in many, many women when they hit menopause. Many people want to exercise. We now know that if you exercise too close to bedtime, that will disturb your sleep. The sweet spot for exercise is in the morning. I know that's really hard for a lot of people, but try to get up. If you have to a little early, try to exercise in the morning. Of course, the ideal time is when most of us are at work, like around 10 o'clock in the morning. So, we're just not living with the way we were programmed, but do the best you can. Another thing that really can affect sleep quality is eating. If you eat within 2 hours of going to sleep, your sleep will be disturbed. Your circadian rhythm is going to be completely broken if you eat and then go right to sleep, because we are not programmed to eat and go to sleep. So please, the optimal thing is not to eat after 7 o'clock at night, because our pancreas goes to sleep by 8. But if you must eat in the evening, please do not eat within 2 hours of going to sleep. That is like really, really, really important. And if you wake up in the morning and you're still sleepy, or if you know you snore, women can snore too, but it's not required to have a snoring woman to have sleep apnea. But if you wake up in the morning and you're tired, if you are tired all day long, then please get a sleep study and get checked for sleep apnea. So in summary, sleep is not just about being unconscious. Sleep is not the absence of being awake. Sleep is an active phase of your 24-hour day when your body goes through rejuvenation. It's really important for brain health, but we're talking about cardiovascular health now. Cardiovascular health requires a good night's sleep. Without proper sleep, your risk of having high blood pressure goes up, and heart attacks and strokes go up, and diabetes, which is associated with cardiovascular problems, and other problems as well, like cognitive problems, neurological problems, and so on. And the risk of diabetes also significantly rises. And we didn't talk about it this time, but issues with mood and pain are also affected by lack of sleep. And of course, judgment, like driving. And also, your ability to do well at work is affected when you do not get adequate sleep. So of course, we want to have our best brains on, right? So sleep is really important. So to get adequate sleep, you need to go to bed at the right time, which is between 10 and 11. You need to try to shoot for 7 or 7.5, but you don't need more than 8 hours. And over 9 hours, you actually start getting into a negative state, okay? But you don't want to go really much under 7 hours, because that's also going to be a negative. If you're a woman and you're going through menopause, then you should see a physician that knows all about hormones, someone like me or someone like me who can work with you to see if you would like to go on some hormones, because as you know, I'm a very big fan of hormones, but I see hormones in the context of the whole woman. Hormones are not the answer. They're just a piece of the puzzle, right? So that's why young women who have plenty of hormones can also have problems with sleep. Anxiety is a big sleep negative. So it's really important to look into stress control, whether it's meditation, guided imagery, massage. There's so many different ways you can do progressive relaxation. There's homeopathy. There's so many different ways that you can work on stress. Of course, cognitive behavioral therapy, talk therapy. I love a bath. That's one of my tranquilizers. And by the way, that has been shown that if you take a really hot bath or a really hot shower, really, really, really hot, and then you quickly dry off and jump into a cool bed, that will trigger sleep in most people quite quickly. So that can be very, very helpful. And listening to a guided imagery can help you to go to sleep. You want to have a room, your bedroom, to be a haven. You want it to be dark and quiet. I mentioned about noise. Noise is obviously a negative for sleep. You want to have a quiet bedroom, a very tranquil bedroom. You don't want to have disturbances. And this is what the sleep experts say. You should only use your bedroom for 2 things: sex and sleep. If you want to have other forms of entertainment, get out of the bedroom. You shouldn't even read in bed. And if you want to read, go in another room. And then when you're done reading, then use your bedroom, because you want to have that mental association that the bedroom is not an all-purpose room. You're not supposed to be sitting in your bed at night, eating snacks and watching TV. That is like the worst path to a good night's sleep. Do not do that. Try to exercise in the morning. Try not to eat too close to bedtime, especially within 2 hours of bedtime. And then in terms of like, what can you do herbal? Well, as you know, I use pure encapsulations as my number 1 line for a nutraceutical. So I use a lot of their ashwagandha. That's one of my favorites. I use phosphatidylserine. I also love teas, because people don't feel like they're taking a supplement or taking anything when they're, so some chamomile tea. There's many, many calming teas: passion flower, lemon balm, holy basil. There's so many wonderful teas that you can get. And kava kava is a good, if you feel anxiety, that's a good stress reliever. And, like I mentioned, using whatever form of relaxation that you like to work on your stress. And never, if possible, take drugs to help you sleep, because that is a false path. You will not have normal sleep if you use a drug. So I hope all of you tonight will get a great night's sleep. You will have restorative sleep, and tomorrow you'll wake up full of energy. But if not, then you need to work on it, okay? Because not everything is easy, but sleep is not an option. Sleep is essential to cardiovascular health and to every other form of health in your body. So with that, I'd like to bid you all a good night, and I hope to see you soon. We'll have more shows coming up in July, which is around the corner. So I hope to see you then. And please come back and do send me questions. I'm going to try to get through some of them in the next month. You can have them texted, and we'll try to do topics that you find interesting as well. Please tell me what you're interested in. I'm here to help you to have a better, healthier, happier life. Good night, and see you soon.